Hello all. Like I said last week, I would try to bring Erik back every week to share the news, well, some of the news, but the news, so that you can compare it to the propaganda if you watch that. And Erik was gracious enough to fit me into his hectic schedule because he wears many hats. He's been solving many crimes, working beside the police, reporting on political errors, and getting the news for us. So I feel lucky that he is able to fit me into his schedule, and I hope you will appreciate the news because these are not our opinions, but the news that Erik has researched. So Erik, welcome back after my diatribe.
Oh, Jennylyn, I'm so happy to be back.
You know, people like you and they trust you because I noticed. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, tonight I wanted to ask you all who've been watching if you have any news stories you want investigated. Would you write to me? You can email them to me, leave a message below this video, because I will pass them on to Erik and get him to research it for you. So don't forget, and I'm happy I'm mentioning this at the beginning of the show, so that I can get them to him in time before next week. So hopefully he can bring you the answers you seek. So Erik, I don't want to waste any time because so much is happening so fast that I don't want to eat up the time, talking about things that don't really matter. And so I'm going to start the ball rolling with um, the first item that I've prepared for on our agenda tonight, and that is Trump's federal crackdown in DC. It's been on the news because I don't really watch mainstream media, but when I'm preparing for these shows, I take a quick look to see what is being reported so we can get your perspective on if what they're reporting is the truth. And so yesterday, I saw the president cracking down on DC on you can elaborate more what he's cracking down on, but some people is calling it martial law. And this is what I thought we could start with tonight.
So there's several ways to look at this. I've had some people say, well, if Trump if he has all this control, why didn't he do it on January 6th? So I'm going to explain that real quick before I get into this. So January 6th, it was not so much DC Metro. It was Capitol Police. So that, for one, that's a whole other different law enforcement entity. They have their own hierarchy, which the top of that hierarchy is the Speaker of the House. At the time of J6, it was Nancy Pelosi. DC Metro is its own entity as well. And DC is not a normal city, as everyone knows. It's a district that's part of the federal government. So it has to fall under federal law. So at the top of that hierarchy is Donald Trump. Now, generally, the presidents allow the DC Metro to just do their jobs. Like, hey, you guys have a mayor, a police chief. Let that hierarchy stop there. However, yes, so it is a fact. Well, I tend to question data, but the Mayor Bowser of Washington D.C. She claims that crime's down 12% in Washington D.C. I don't know if that's true or not. As we've known, just with the jobs reports, that the Biden administration was highly overinflating their jobs numbers. So I don't know, what if that's real data or not. It's tough to go off of that kind of information anymore because everybody manipulates the data. But let's say for instance, let's say it's true. So DC is our nation's capital. Unless you don't know anything about our country, the DC is our capital. If you go to capital cities in many other powerful countries, they're clean, they're crime free. People want to go visit them. Now, Washington, D.C., even with a 12% crime decrease, is still high crime. Um, it's just not as high as what it was the last 4 years, which ironically is during the Biden administration. Uh, so they've got their crime rates down, but there was just a shooting just down from the Capitol building the other day. So there's still work to be done, and I think when people come to visit the Capitol, you should feel safe. You should be able to go anywhere in our nation's capital and feel safe. That's a representation of the United States of America. Now, is there a martial law situation? No, there's not. For one, if there's a martial law situation, you'd start seeing people disappear in the streets everywhere. So, and there, it would be a free for all. Uh, is it a dictatorship grab? No, it's not. It's the president acting under what is provided to him under the United States Constitution as a president to enact to clean up Washington D.C. The problem that there is with the crime is, yes, the crime statistics may be down, but the problem is just that exactly what Jeanine Pirro stated in the press conference about it yesterday. The problem is with the kids. So anybody under the age of 18 is where the major problems are. And it's the same thing with every city in the United States. This isn't just a DC issue. This is a every city in America issue. And this is Trump setting the standard and saying, here's how you clean up a city. And the kids have the law system in DC does not punish anyone under the age of 18, which enables them to continue going out. It's just like the example Jeanine Pirro said. I prosecuted a kid on a gun crime where he shot somebody, and the kid went to court and they let him out on probation. How do you get probation after shooting someone? Just because they're a juvenile? That's a serious offense. That's an escalating offense. It's just like doing drugs where they say marijuana is a gateway drug for other larger drugs. So maybe he didn't kill somebody this time, but I'll bet you at some point he's going to end up killing someone. So those are situations where we have to get these kids under control. They're not under control right now. Here where I'm at in Atlanta, it's the same problem. The kids are running around murdering everyone all the time. Anytime you hear about murders on TV, it's always somebody who's in the age group of like 13 to 18 that they commit all the crime. It has everyone terrified. You don't want to go out anywhere because there's no rules. Back in the day, like Jennylyn, you live in New York, so we can compare that to the old mafia days in New York City. There was a balance in the crime versus cop in New York City because there was a line you didn't cross if you were a cop because you knew the mafia would retaliate. So they were able to kind of keep the peace that way to where there weren't a lot of outlandish things happening. Same thing on the criminal side. The mafia held crime accountable because what you don't want in your city is a bunch of heat from the feds. If things start getting out of control, guess what? The feds start to notice, and then they're going to start paying attention and putting resources there. And that's what's happening in DC and all these cities where the crime rates on a certain age group is getting too out of control. So you have to go in there and try to neutralize that. And the same thing with the mafias in the large cities. They neutralize the crime because nobody wants the feds sniffing around. There. Long story short, with a lot of complicated things.
No, thank you, Erik. At least you're explaining it so people can, understand clearly what is going on. So, next item on the agenda, the apparently Trump's administration had reached out to unseal the grand jury's testimony in the Ghislaine Maxwell's case, and it was rejected. And there are those who are saying the reason the Trump administration was reaching out to have this, to try to get this done, is because Trump is concerned what she is going to say about him, whatever she knows about him, and that hopefully if he set her free, he's buying her silence. What do you know about this, Erik? What have you found out in your research?
See, what I can tell you is the other side of the fence doesn't tell the whole truth. And Ghislaine Maxwell has already revealed that Donald Trump is not in this investigation. Um, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer has already made a statement that Donald Trump is not an active participant in those acts.
Could I
Um,
interrupt for a second?
yes,
Could she be saying this because she wants his favor?
I mean, me personally, I don't trust Ghislaine Maxwell at all. Period. When you're incarcerated, you're gonna get desperate because you know that
Right.
daylight is never gonna happen. So you will
Exactly.
say whatever you need to say to get out. Um, However, there's a lot of layers to it. For one, we need to look at the legality of what is happening. Um, I want the Epstein whole situation done and over with. I want them to just throw it out there, arrest whoever, and let's get it over with. But the legality part of it. So there's something to understand about grand jury information. Grand jury evidence is sealed. You can't just any grand jury. It doesn't matter what the case is. Grand jury evidence is sealed. Because what people don't realize is, and this is why I don't want to see the grand jury evidence because it's going to be pish posh. What they do at grand juries, generally, the defendant, so Ghislaine Maxwell, would not have had a representative in the grand jury to contest any information in there. So prosecutors have free game to manipulate the information in whatever manner that they want to the grand jury without having Ghislaine Maxwell having a lawyer present. So the grand juries is actually, in my opinion, is one of the most unconstitutional things that we do in this country. So to release that information would just be a release of a manipulation of information that a group of people were hand fed by the prosecutor's office. So that's not going to do us any good anyway. Is there information in there that would be beneficial for America to know? Probably. But to know how they manipulated the grand jury, I really don't care about that. I know enough about the court systems and how those worked where grand jury information is worthless. Actually what they need to do is to get the discovery. Whatever the discovery that the prosecution had that they were going to turn into the courts is the most important because they don't have to turn in everything for a grand jury. They can put whatever out there. They could put, they could redact the whole entire statement and just leave Donald Trump's name out. And so that's all you see is Donald Trump's name and say, yep, see his name's on here. Because there's an old theory, an old saying that you can indict a ham sandwich. And that's true. You can indict a ham sandwich. If they have one piece of paper with a little tiny piece of evidence that's worthless in a court, they can get you indicted. So the grand jury stuff is worthless to me.
And there are those who are saying that one of the reasons that they're refusing to um, release this case is because the judge who has denied it was an Obama appointed judge. And there are those who are saying because Obama appointed him, this is the reason why he has rejected the request. What do you know about that? Anything?
I mean, if they want to point the finger at Donald Trump not wanting to release it, then they have to point the finger at the judge. I can tell you that that judge is never going to release that information because it's sealed. It's a sealed piece of information. You're never supposed to know who the grand jury is. You're never supposed to know the information presented at a grand jury. That's a protected act, which I it's a protected part of due process. Um, that's why I think it's unconstitutional because you can't contest it because nobody knows what's really in it. Um, so I mean that information is no judge is ever. It don't matter who appointed the judge; they're never going to let that information out because that's a protected part of due process. That's protected to
But
secrecy
but
under the
shouldn't
seal.
the Trump administration know this? So why are they
They
requesting?
do. They have been saying it. They said you can't take it out. If you watch the lawyers on that side of the fence, then you'll know, that you can't. That's not something you can't just turn that information over. It's a violation
So
of
that's my
the system.
question. So why then are they requesting it if they know this?
Because that's the process. That's the only thing they can do. They can't. There there was nothing. Ghislaine Maxwell provided nothing. There was nothing in the court. You have to remember who was the president during the time of the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell stuff. You had 4 years of the Biden administration. If there was damning evidence there, it would have got leaked. The Biden administration leaked more stuff out to the world than any other administration in the last 100 years. So for them to not have leaked anything about the Epstein case tells you there's nothing there, and that's why they're hyper focusing on the grand jury information because there's probably a piece of information they know is in there that would point a finger at Donald Trump, but it's not part of the official court record. So there's a play on stuff there. One thing with the Epstein case that we have to understand, and this is part of it that I'm really weary about because the Epstein case isn't an American problem. This is a global problem. And if you open up that can of worms, I would be highly prepared and ready for um, a global reaction because you're going to have sultans of this, billionaires from this, royalty from here. You're going to have all of these major players in the world because Epstein hung out with the apex people in the world. And just like with which what was it, Prince Andrew,
Andrew,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah, so Prince Andrew, that's how high this goes to the top. Now, I believe that Prince Andrew was so bad that they were able to offer him up. They said, you know what? Throw out Prince Andrew. We're not really, hanging out with him anyway.
I saw
And
yesterday that he was arrested. Is that propaganda?
I haven't seen that one
I
yet.
read that yesterday that he
He
was
may have been.
arrested. But who knows? Left up to me, I wouldn't even talk about it because it's so like not important to me. But it's in the news and we're talking about the news. So that's why I decided to add this to the agenda. But thank you, Eric. Thanks for explaining that. Were you finished?
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
yeah, there's parts of me that wants it to come out, and there's parts of me that says, is it really worth it? I mean, you want to keep going over some dead guy and some desperate woman who's going to say anything to get out of prison? I don't know if I want to give her that.
Well, here's why I want it because here's why I don't care. And that is because when have you ever seen people of this caliber held responsible? When have you ever seen
Never.
one taken and put in the jail like everybody else because they
Right.
never. So why waste time? Why put us through another circus?
Right.
Anyway, based on the tariff situation with India, they're clearly unhappy because now they're planning to boycott America. What do you tell us about this? You've been on Indian television quite a few times, so I know this one should be an easy answer for you.
Yeah, so I was on last night too.
You were? I didn't know
This
you
this
were.
whole this whole tariff thing is driving them crazy. They're not liking the outcome. The Trump really hurt them. Um,
Can you
so
tell us how we hurt them?
so here's what happened. India got caught buying oil and other goods off of Russia. So that upset Trump because anytime anybody buys anything off Russia, obviously they're able to add money to the bank. Russia takes that money and they buy and create more things to blow up the Ukraine with. So Trump is trying to financially choke Russia. So for India to go in there and do that now, I don't want to throw India under the bus because there's a necessity that India has to have. India is huge in the textile industry. It's one of their biggest industries over there. And do you know what textiles are made out of? Plastic. Plastic is made out of oil. So this is India has to have oil to sustain their textile industry, and they're starting their own semiconductors. India has to have oil, and for us to sit here and say, well, you shouldn't have been buying oil off of Russia. Well, Russia has like a B grade quality of oil at a C grade price, where America has an A grade quality of oil at a B price at then you have to throw in the transportation cost. A lot of people don't understand how much it costs to transport something across the ocean. It's expensive. But with India, you just take it right up into like Sochi or whatever, and you're there. So the transportation cost is next to nothing for India to Russia. So there's a India's trying to keep their economy going without trying to. I don't think President Modi really was trying to upset President Trump, but Trump hit him with a double tariff. They were at 25%. Trump added an additional 25%, so they're at 50% tariff, which is going to destroy the Indian economy. So uh, Prime Minister Modi is in a position where he can either go back to the drawing board with Trump and work out some kind of deal and say, sorry, I will never do business with Russia again. But the problem Modi has is he's on both sides of the fence. And that's the issue that India always has. India can't ever pick a side. And they want to do business with everybody because they know that that's what's in their economic best interest. But yet they're part of BRICS. So they have an obligation to work with Russia, China, Brazil, Venezuela, and Egypt, and all those countries. So they put themselves kind of in a hard place where they don't like they're not going to be able to play both sides of the fence much longer. The world's gonna make them pick. Like, do you want to be part of the global economy or you want to stay with BRICS? Now, the reason why, you have all these countries going, well, we're just boycott America. Okay, go ahead. But you know why that's not going to work? Because the number one consumer of goods in the world is the United States of America. So if you boycott the United States of America, guess what? You're not going to be able to sell very many goods because the rest of the world doesn't financially have stake in the global markets like we do. So they would be cutting their own throat to have a real boycott. They can say it and make it look good in the media all they want, but when it comes down to it, they'll never boycott us because they depend on our markets so they can fiscally survive.
Well,
Period.
every country plays the politics, right?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, everyone is trying to outsmart the other one, either because of their political agenda or because of
Right.
their financial situation. So it's not uncommon, but apparently our president is a great chess player. My concern is, Erik, and you've been on Indian television quite a few times. What do you see this outcome looking like?
Prime Minister Modi is going to make a deal with Donald Trump.
And you think that Donald Trump will give him a discounted, will he lower his 50% tariff?
Yeah, I think President Trump just wanted to prove a point. He does have a good personal relationship with the prime minister.
That's what I
So
thought.
yeah, they do. They do. That's, but when it comes down to it, Donald Trump's a businessman. If your buddy's skimming from you, you're gonna protect your business over your friendship. So that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's kind of he. I think Prime Minister Modi thought, well, I might be able to get away with this. President Trump won't be so mad because we're buddies. And Donald Trump said, nope, business. I'm a businessman. So now you're messing with what I'm trying to do. And but at the end of the day, I think Modi's going to get with President Trump, and they're going to work out a deal because he's going to look at the BRICS nations, which BRICS is. I don't have a problem with the BRICS countries, but their markets, like the between all the BRICS nations and the associate nations, their economy together is not big enough to compete with the U.S. markets. So India is gonna have to sell to the United States. They have to. There's nobody blows more money on stupid stuff than Americans. So they need to sell their trinkets and their rugs and all this stuff that India makes over there, and there's semiconductors and all these things. So they live off of our money. So it's going to have to happen. There's really no way around it. I can't see Russia coming out and saying, "Well, with our 3.2 GDP, we'll be able to sustain your economy." No, they're not going to be able to do it. And China can't do it either. And even all of their economies together doesn't equal the U.S. GDP. So they have to use us. It's just there's no way around it unless they want to go backwards.
And apparently China's feeling the squeeze also.
Yes, they are.
So Erik, you're kind of a news junkie, and I would imagine you've always been. Would you say that our current president is the only president who plays chess like this in terms of tariffs and conserving and trying to bring in more money economically for us rather than pouring it out? Because apparently, historically, at least over the last 10 years, that's what was happening. I mean, I hailed from the Silicon Valley, where most of the tech in the
Right.
United States was being born. And based on my knowledge, the majority of manufacturing was happening overseas.
Yeah, so and that's a huge issue. If we lose too much manufacturing jobs to overseas, um, where is the middle class going to get their money? So that's a big problem, and we have to remember that you do have to have some rich people and take care of some rich people so they'll keep their businesses in the United States. If you go and start overtaxing businesses, they're going to do what they do every single time somebody gets in office and raises corporate taxes on them. They're going to move it to another country
But then
because
we should implement a law that prohibits that.
but that will that will be in the way of the whole full ideology of capitalism. So you can't punish a company for looking for better markets. It's just kind
Not
of how.
punish them, but at least put a cap on it. Like this many this many of your businesses you can outsource overseas, but then if you have 10 businesses, you can outsource five, and five you have to have all of the manufacturing done domestically because you want to provide, jobs for the people in your country or in your
So
economy.
it's
Something
already
like that.
kind of yeah, it's already kind of done like that, Jennylyn. So when you look at companies, let's say Toyota, for example, Toyota is a really strong company. They have a really good business model. We know that Toyota is a Japanese company. So there are things in Japan that Toyota makes, but the majority of Toyota is made in the United States. Now, what Toyota likes to do, instead of putting the Toyota brand on everything, they outsource certain parts of the car. So they'll have the dashboard people will be this private company that contracts with Toyota to make that certain part, and that can be anywhere in America. So that's why that's going to be a tough one to do, because they just break the company up and they outsource certain parts of the car to different private companies that are not part of the Toyota umbrella. So that's where they
Got
avoid
it.
certain things. See, does that make sense?
Yes, I understand. And I actually I am aware because I did visit a few, especially the Tesla plant. I visited a few times
Right.
when they were making the car. But that has been a concern because I watched like all of our Apple phones were
Right.
that were manufactured in China, and then China copied our technology, went and made
Yeah.
it. I mean, it was kind of comical. I remember being in China and seeing all these local stores selling our Apple phones.
Right.
You couldn't really trust them, but they were made there. So I would imagine some people working in the plant stole
Right.
the technology. It's simple. That's how they make the bags and everything else. But
Right. But
anyway,
but hold on, Jennylyn, I got to answer the second part of the question. So Donald Trump, the chess player.
right.
So we have okay. So I don't want America or viewers to think that no one's ever done what Donald Trump's done. Obviously, we have done tariffs in the past, um, but it was a gamble for Donald Trump and the Treasury Secretary Bessent to to go after everybody very aggressively. No one's ever done that. And I was scared. When I saw the markets drop, I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys just destroyed our market. But they did it. They did it the right way. They were right. And I don't know if they knew they were going to be right or if they said, let's just see what happens. But they were right. And I like to think that Scott Bessent is the best Treasury Secretary in the history of the United States, period. What he's done with our economy and pulled it out of inflation, pulled it out of all these negatives that happened, and now we're I think we almost hit the record today in the Dow Jones, but things are just going crazy. We're making money off of tariffs now. The work that the Treasury Department has done since Donald Trump's been in office is unbelievable. We've never seen that happen in America, and that's a hats off to Scott Bessent, who is the highest ranking um, gay official ever in American history. Did you know
Oh,
that?
really? I did not
Yes.
know that. I
Yep.
did not know that.
History.
Well, you hear constantly, this one is a closeted, whatever. You never know what goes
Yeah.
on in
Well,
people.
Scott Bessent's out in the open. So,
Okay. I don't really
but
care what side of the fence they're batting on, as long as they're playing their part with integrity, I'm happy.
right. But as far as Trump goes, we've just never had anybody do it this aggressively. Every time a Democrat gets in office, you know that they want to tax the rich and it makes all the factories leave. It happens every single time. But every time a Republican gets in, they want to do tax cuts and it brings business back. But there's this like really slow snail paced. The Republicans do everything on a snail scale, and it's annoying. All Trump did was took some policies that worked on several sides and just rapid fire did them. And it's just like the first day or the first couple months in office, every day he did something. And people couldn't keep up. I had a tough time keeping up. I'm like, I have to watch the news like every 10 minutes because Trump gets on TV and he announces something, and then everything starts happening. It's tough. I've never seen a politician aggressively go through his plan as fast as Donald Trump did. And we can look at that as a negative or a positive. I look at it as he doesn't have a lot of time to get these things done, so he sped the clock up. I think he had 4 years of waiting for Biden to get out of the way, and he already had this plan put together. It was already done. So I think it was brilliant. I The problem is for these politicians on the left and the right, Donald Trump raised the bar so high on delivering promises that um, anybody who follows him is going to have a tough time because they're going to be like, well, Donald Trump would have got that done. Donald Trump would have got that done. And we're used to seeing somebody go in there and do things where we've had past presidents in the past, even the Bushes and the Clintons, they didn't do anything. Nothing like what we're seeing now. We're seeing a guy go in there and work. Your tax dollars are getting dealt with Donald Trump, where in the past it was, well, let's see, we'll get this one thing done in the first year, and then we'll work on the next thing for the next year. Everything was just so slow moving. And it just always made me wonder, like, why do these guys never do anything? They got 4 years to get it done. Nothing ever happens. But Donald Trump showed everyone that, hey, I have a plan. I came in with a plan, and now I'm going to start on day one doing my plan. Boom, and he's just taken off with it. So that politicians don't like that because they like to sit in office and collect checks for free.
Well, Erik, as you know, there's a scheduled meeting on Friday between Putin and Trump, and it looks like it's going to happen. But once again, there are those who are saying that they think Putin is laying a trap for Trump. What has your research turned up on this, if anything?
Well, I don't think we're going to learn anything different than what we already know. Uh, Putin wants Ukraine to get rid of the eastern part of the Ukraine. That's it. Period. There's no I want Kiev or I want all these other areas that he wants. Putin wants to keep a hold of Crimea, and he wants them to come off of the eastern part of the Ukraine where they've been fighting over. Um, Zelensky's not going to do it. He's not going to give up that eastern stretch of the Ukraine, and he's under pressure from Europe, who are the colonizers. I don't want anybody to ever forget the colonization of Europe. The reason why they want Ukraine so bad is because they want to indirectly keep Ukraine colonized with European influence. They still colonize, they just do it differently now. It's the same thing with Africa. You go down there and you see, France just got kicked out of Congo because the Congolese people got tired of them being there. And those European countries are a disaster in this negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. Russia just wants them to stop bombing their people, and that's what started the whole thing. When Obama sent in his CIA people to go in there and start that coup, that's what started this whole thing. And Trump's trying to get at the end. He wants them to just go ahead and let the eastern part of the Ukraine go and let them be their own little Moldova, the next round of little countries that break away, and get the Ukraine influence out of there, which I don't see a problem with it. There's not really a lot of massive value there. There's minerals and resources there, but it's not. When you look at the size of Ukraine, is the biggest country in Europe. So when you look at the square footage of it, it's just like a little strip of the eastern part. You know, just let them have their own little area, and let's call it a day. Let's stop with the Ukrainians dying. Let's stop with the Russians dying. Let's stop with the threat of nuclear war, and everybody go about their business, and let's close the book on this. But the problem is, Russia won't negotiate anything less than the eastern part of the Ukraine, and Zelensky won't come off of it. So that's kind of how where we're at.
It's like
It's a
it's
push.
like two, it's like having two sheep tied together in the middle of a circle, and the one
Yeah,
on the right is insistent on going right, and the one on the left is insistent on going right. So,
right.
yes, it's left to be seen what will happen. Erik, the European leaders are aware that Trump and Putin are meeting on Friday, and so they have made it clear that they are going to continue to support the Ukraine. What do you think this means for the situation?
I think it complicates it. Like I said, I have zero faith in Europe to help get anything positively done. They have yet to show the world that they can do anything the right way. They're driven by greed and power and manipulation. I don't even like them being involved in this because it's just going to complicate things. And I think President Trump eventually is going to get to the point where he's going to go, well, if nobody wants me to solve this problem, then y'all can have it. Just I'll just get out of the way
Yeah, but
because
what
that's what's
does that
happened.
mean? That means that there's a war that's going to continue in and not ever cease? I mean, seriously,
I mean, so
have to find a compromise somewhere.
Russia can end this war anytime they want. If they wanted to conquer Ukraine, it would have been done in the first week. The Oreshnik bombs that they have are very technologically sound. Ukraine can't stop them. It would basically blow up everything in the Ukraine from underneath the ground and just make it concave out. So Russia can end this war any day they want. They're trying to do it diplomatically. Yeah, they do their little. If when Ukraine pushes back, they'll go blow up some energy things and some buildings, and every once in a while they'll kill some civilians. Um, but Russia could end this war any second they want. And what the Biden administration and Europe did was enabled Ukraine to sit there and still do this and think they made them think all this time they were winning when in fact they were getting destroyed, and Russia was only sending a very small fraction of what they have. So it's we've created American media, American politics has created this war, and we're responsible for the deaths of that war. And it's unfortunate, but that's where we're at. Trump's
But
trying to
we
get it
know
to stop.
Trump didn't start it, so maybe he's powerless to stop it. Is that correct?
Well, if they're going to continue to fight this land grab, it's going to be tough because, like you said, it's like two sheep going in opposite directions that are tied to each other. That's exactly a great metaphor for what's going on over there. And to me personally, either way, that's Russian blood. All that is Russian blood there. Let the two brothers fight it out
Yeah,
because
so why are
nobody's
the rest of us involved? That's what I
right.
kept asking from the beginning. What is it to us? Why are our
It's a
daughters
mineral grab.
being dumped there?
Europe wanted involved because there's a lot of minerals under the ground,
Oh, jeez.
and Ukraine doesn't tap into it, and they know it's there. And Ukraine also produces some of the most wheat in the world. Big farming country. So the agriculture for that region is important because there's not a lot of mass agriculture areas in Europe except in Ukraine.
So, Eric, believe it or not, we are going to be out of time soon, and we could go on forever. There's no cap
Oh,
on
right.
time. But I just know that people don't seem to engage, past like 45 minutes. But
Right.
I wanted to ask you this since we discussed tariffs. What happened to Doge? And where's Elon?
And that Doge petered out. So the brainchild, that just shows you how smart Elon Musk is. The brains of the operation walks away, and now like you said on my show, I cover the Doge statistics every week, and when Elon was in there, the numbers were chipping away, and they're in big hunks. Now you're lucky to see $1 billion go away. So Doge started out strong, and when Elon walked away, it turned into a fail. So um, yeah, the left got to Elon and bullied him out of there. And now we're not saving Americans any money. Congratulations.
But aren't we going to save those places that have been covered while it was in operation?
Well, I think some of the reason why we're not seeing a lot of movement out of Doge now is because the Doge cuts aren't cuts until Congress codifies the cut, and nobody in Congress wants to codify the cuts. So it's all of it was for nothing. We're not saving any money. I tell you that because everything Elon did is for nothing. It's sad. That could have been a great thing.
I get so tired of watching the bullies bully people out of situations. I'll tell you what, no bully can bully me ever. But
Right.
that's just me. I am fearless, ferocious, and I don't give up if I believe in something. But
Right.
when it involves other people, you have to know when to dump the waste.
Right.
However, I think it's very sad because so many people were hopeful that what he was unveiling was going to result in the American people getting money that was being abused for
Right.
the interest of people who didn't care about the
Right.
Americans. So
So
it's kind of sad that, he let himself get.
right.
Or did he have an agenda? Because there are people who believe there was an agenda.
No, they were hurt. They were hurting his money, but that's okay. We can go back to. Don't worry, Ireland. You guys can have your transgender operas back.
Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that next week because that's one story I know nothing about.
It's just one of the many things like that Doge cut out, and from USAID scam that which the whole world is calling it a scam, so they can be mad at Donald Trump all they want. Every time I go on the Pakistani uh, media or India, they all say, "Oh, that USAID was a giant scam." I'm like, "Yeah, we know now."
Well, Erik, what haven't we covered that you think is a hot topic this week that I didn't have on my agenda before we say goodbye?
I mean, when it comes to the DC stuff, Donald Trump made it very clear, and I want to make sure that I clarify this because the media, the media, we live in a world of 60-second clips. I think I might have said this last time, but we live in this tiny little box where our news gets given to us at 60-second clips at a time. And you can't tell a full story in 60 seconds. Sorry. So the Donald Trump has said we are going to make some massive criminal justice changes to DC, and then we're going to walk away and give it to Mayor Bowser. Here you go. Here's your recipe for success. And then Mayor Bowser will have full control over her city again. This isn't like a giant dictatorship takeover. It's a makeover. Let Trump come in and make it over, which he has the 100% constitutional authority to do, and and then see what happens. They did a test run in Virginia and it was very successful, but the media is not reporting on that either. They have already tried it, it's worked. So DC is just next on the list. They're going to do New York, they're going to do Chicago, they're going to do all those cities, whether they like it or not.
Well, thank you so much, Erik. And thank you for those of you who are watching the efforts that we are making to bring you the news. And like I said earlier, please, if you have a topic you want clarification on, Erik is an amazing researcher. That's why he's written the book that, Erik, what's the name of your book again?
The Swiss effect.
The Swiss Effect. He did a lot of research to be able to come up with that book. And in case you're wondering, it's not the stupid nonsense book because it no sooner hit the market and he was called from the powers that be in big countries, pretty much telling him, denouncing him from visiting their territory. So clearly, his research leads to the truth, and someone was offended, or someone's were offended by what he has published in that book. So I really encourage those of you who haven't purchased it yet, you can get it on Amazon, go read it. Because some of what's happening in our world today, you're going to find in the book. And I thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired and educated, because you were just dished up a bowl of facts by Mr. Erik. And we will see you next week. Erik, you want to say your goodbye?
Everybody just be safe out there. Look after your family. That's it.
Thank you and goodbye.